Here again. I'd like to talk today about codependency as a result of a narcissist parent. Now, in my case, my mother was a narcissist, and she avoided me. I didn't feel wanted at all, and as a result, I didn't ask her for anything later on because of the fuss. She'd put me down and say I'm selfish, and it was all negative things if I was to ask for something. So I became a person that would say that I don't need anything, because the result of asking for something from my mother was always a negative. If it wasn't yelling, if it wasn't being put down for asking, if it wasn't being told I'm selfish for asking, it's better not to ask. So I developed a trait that after I grew up, even to ask somebody for help or to ask somebody for something, it was a negative thing because of that message that went through my head. If I asked somebody for something, I may have them yell at me. It was just like a reminder of my mother being negative if I asked for something. And so throughout life, even if I was to contemplate looking for a job, just the thought of a potential employer being angered and maybe yelling at me because I asked would prevent me from looking. This fear I've had of people, and it was an irrational programming in my head, but as a child you don't understand. You get older and it's just the way you are. You don't realize you are like this because you were programmed by your parent or parents. So to ask anybody for anything was something you feared, because in the back of your mind you always remembered the yelling, the put down for anything you've asked for, so you've learned not to ask for things. But I did experience some mirroring of my narcissistic mother when I was younger. And I remembered I was very cruel for a while to other kids, sisters. I would torment them. I would tease them, and I didn't understand this when I got older. Why I was such a mean person? Why I was so cruel to anybody I knew, any of the kids I knew. I was so cruel to them. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I finally realized why. I was mirroring my mother, the cruel streak she had in her. I was thinking, well, if you can't beat them, join them. Like not being able to ask my mother for something, having a fear of her. So the tendency to turn over and be like her, and being extra cruel to friends, to siblings. There was no reason for it that I could see, and I couldn't see it all of my life until not too long ago. But this was a mirroring of my mother, the lack of empathy, the lack of love, that cruel streak. But I wanted to also mention the post-traumatic stress disorder that can occur to a young child because of a narcissist mother. Now, the PTSD occurring as a child, when the child does grow up to become an adult, they can still be living in this post-traumatic stress and not be aware of anything that has occurred or changed. They may be fearful of things abnormally. They may be fearful of people. They may have nightmares continually, for an example. But the child who is traumatized when they're very young can live through that post-traumatic stress through their life and not be aware of being in this state, just accepting the fact that this is what it is. As compared to the point where a life event happens which causes post-traumatic stress disorder, the person can understand this is why I developed PTSD, because of something that happened. But going through a life like this from childhood, there are many codependents who spend their life in a state of PTSD, not understanding, not being aware that this is was caused because of their child upbringing. So I hope this gave you something to think about today, and I thank you for listening. I ask you subscribe if you haven't already, like, share, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Thanks for listening.